And then again, it intersects with this illusion of separateness, which from the very beginning, when I figured out the magic words to heal a woman's feelings, discovered that if someone says those magic words, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, everyone who hears them, even if they're said in a movie, will be healed. Right? And I discovered this way long ago. And that's why I started thinking of human beings as aspen groves. Independence is an illusion. Just like control, right? Control and independence.
It's an illusion, yes.
Such illusions.
Welcome to Letting Go and the Greatest Secret, where we explore the end of your suffering and the beginning of lasting happiness. I'm Hale Dwoskin, and today I'll be joined by Alison Armstrong. Alison Armstrong illuminates human characteristics that precede and express themselves regardless of gender, age, and upbringing. She distinguishes normal human instincts that compel both men and women to behave in ways that contradict and undermine our own purposes, goals, values, needs, and relationships. Through her seminars, books, online programs, and media contributions, she has given millions of people access to more fulfilling lives, loving relationships, stronger families, and productive organizations. Tell me a little bit. You've been to our retreats and you know a lot about the Sedona Method, and you have an amazing body of work. I have to say, years ago, we had already met, and you gave one of your programs. I think it may have been just Understanding Men, to my wife and I, and we listened to the whole thing together, and it was illuminating. We just really enjoyed it. And then I don't remember at what point. Do you remember at what point you started releasing?
Oh, golly. Okay. Well, it was kind of strange because I was first taught releasing by someone who was in one of my courses, and I'd already met you. I'd already met you in San Jose. And then when I was invited to the Transformational Leadership Council, right, I got to see you there. And then this other person teaches me, could you, would you, when,
right,
and taught me incorrectly.
that happens.
That I was supposed to say yes, even when I was thinking no or hell no. I was
right.
Yes anyway.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about, releasing and the intention to release, that it worked. Even though,
it worked anyway. Yes.
It worked anyway. But then that led me, after getting to know you a little bit, right, in our gatherings with TLC, to find out from you, right, to ask you. And so you you used could you, would you, when, and we were on the phone. I remember the whole thing, like the lighting in my office and all of that stuff. And you did you wanted to teach me holistic welcoming, and you asked me to pick something I was struggling with. And I said I was struggling to love my body. And so you just dove into it. This with release with me with loving my body and not loving my body, and including everything and not loving my body. And you went back and forth, and then you went to not loving my body. And I just was stunned, and I was, that's a location that's disappeared.
Right.
that's not a viable destination anymore. gone.
Right.
And oh my gosh, that was the beginning of mad love. And then you might remember me contacting you because I was using the Sedona Method in my mastery and certification program.
Yes,
People
I do
were
remember
learning,
that. Yes.
right? I taught over 600 people to teach the things I've learned about men and women and human beings. And I I called you all guilty because
All right. Yes. I
right?
know. You're so cute.
Oh gosh. Well, I'd asked to use it in this one place,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And you said yes. And then I found myself using it all these other places. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to clean this up.
Right.
And then you were awesome because I had this huge confession and I was so guilty. And you said, okay, let's do this. I give you my permission to use the Sedona Method in any teaching or training that you do retroactively. Another time I remember exactly where I was, a different office. I'd moved to Colorado, right? And tears just streaming down my face. And I haven't stopped talking about it since.
Right.
And then I signed up for the retreat, and I was talking about how excited I was when I was leading a course in Canada, and we were using the Sedona Method.
Right.
And that's when, and Lori and Emily were in that course.
Yes.
And they heard I was going to be at the retreat. So they signed up for the retreat, and I didn't know it because I barely knew them at the time. Now, I mean, they're going to be here on Friday.
That's great.
We have vacationed in so many places together. And Lori and I, a couple months after the retreat 3 years ago, we started being buddies.
Yes.
And 3 times a week releasing, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And she, oh my gosh, I mean, she had no confidence in her ability to do any of it and thought I was so much better than she was. That thing that people do.
Oh, yeah.
And she got me through the hardest 2 years of my life. Do you know,
Yes.
everything after Greg had died and
right.
I was fine. I was fine, Hale, until I realized I wanted to be in a romantic relationship again.
Yes. And then all the next level of feeling came up, of course.
Oh my gosh. It's been stunning. And it's almost 3.5 years since Greg died.
Yes.
And even, when we were at the retreat, I, asked to talk to you about a way I was planning on leading this course, right? Called Lux. And where I was going to teach something from our partnership work called a process of honoring.
Yes.
And it's, to me, it's so beautiful. This way that honoring could be escalated, and it starts with respect and granting innate value, and then go seeking the value. And if you don't seek, you're not going to see. And then once you see, you have a choice. You can try to understand what you're seeing, which of course I've been doing since 1991 with men and women, or you could forego understanding and just admit that it's real. If it's there, it's real. Whether you understand why or not.
Right.
And as I was, preparing this course and so excited about it, but we're working on it for years and then months, I'm sitting there in the middle of the retreat going, uh-oh. I'm thinking of respect and seeking and seeing and understanding and accepting and supporting in the context of human spirit, in the context of a choice and being on the same team. But these are also, they coexist in the domain of human instinct and intense need and entitlement and no, not
all sorts of overlays. Right.
Yeah, I'm convinced everything lives in both domains. And
yes.
And I was like, oh my gosh, if we don't, and that's when I asked you, Hale, do you think the Sedona Method would work for people to release the need for respect and the need to be seen and the need to be understood and their entitlement to being accepted and supported and appreciated. Like, do you think that could happen? And you're like, you went, why not?
Exactly.
Why not? And then there I was 3 weeks later, in front of 350 people in this huge production at the Omni Hotel. And I'm guiding people through welcoming being respected, and now welcome being not respected. Welcome being respected, and welcome being not respected. And I'm just like, Hale said it would work. Hale said it would work. And then people are talking afterwards, and oh my gosh, you were right. You were right. And people, like, they were forgiving themselves for all the ways they betrayed themselves to try to earn respect, because they needed it so desperately, and things people were doing to try to be seen. And oh my gosh, it was so fun, because I just was muscle testing, right? And I didn't have it made up ahead of time. And so, like, one of the, oh, we could do that. So fun watching you lead the retreat. I learned so much just watching you lead the retreat. It was such a blessing. But like, we did a release on being understood, which, human beings have such a drive to be understood.
Yes.
But then we did a release on understanding. And all of a sudden, people were freed up to act without understanding.
Right. Yeah.
Like all of a sudden, my access to technology, I don't have to understand how it works to use it.
Right, exactly.
So that intersection, right, of a process of honoring and all the releasing, what I didn't know would happen was people all over the world fell in love with the Sedona Method. Yes. Because we use triple welcoming, we use the holistic welcoming, we use could you, would you, when, and I taught them my flush without looking that I made up of, that I told you about of.
Yes, I do remember. You can share it though.
Oh my gosh! Well, I even elaborated on it since then, because Lori. Oh yeah, Lori and I have so much fun riffing on releasing that you invent. And so that one became, she calls it the heaven on earth release. Yes. And so it's, could you welcome anything and everything within you and around you, past, present, and future, from the minuscule to the universal, that doesn't serve heaven on earth. And then would you, and then when? And we have different versions of it, like, that doesn't serve me to serve God in heaven on earth, that doesn't serve, you can make up whatever words
sure
to not get hung up. But she calls it, sometimes she'll go, can I have the heaven on earth release? And oh my gosh, she's gotten so good at riffing. Like, she was doing a triple welcome with me, and she's, having me welcome, the conclusions, the emotions, the stories. And she's like, the hallucinations.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah. and people don't realize how much life is just a hallucination.
oh gosh. We're going to get to that. That's on my list.
Oh, okay, good.
That's another intersection. That's the one that happened a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, and she'll just make up stuff that we did a release yesterday, and she had me welcome the shadows. And even the shadows. And oh my gosh, Matt, just mad love. So yeah, so that was the first, besides the little intersections when I led Lux, and it worked, and people sharing years later about they don't need to be respected. And so they don't betray themselves
Right.
anymore. They get it, right? Right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm so grateful. What you do and have done and keep doing, talk about prolific, it keeps allowing people to use with the effort less isn't the right word, right? Because literally that's less effort. It takes it to no effort.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
They just free and just yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. But again, let's talk a little bit about, we'll go back and forth if you'd like, because I know you have other things you wanted to share about the intersection. But tell me, what is the cutting edge now for what you're teaching? Because again, your body of knowledge, what you teach about relationships and men and women, of what I've seen in the field, it's the one I resonate with the most. There are a lot of people teaching about it, but I have a hard time getting into it because it doesn't seem as real and open and genuine and as useful as what you share. So what's the cutting edge of what you're sharing at the moment?
Oh boy. I would say that it's I started working on it about 10 years ago, but I didn't get to express it. And Lux was actually the first time to express it widely. And it's I would call it what's beneath gender. And then even what's beneath that.
Yes.
So it starts with, because I think like an engineer, right?
Right.
So,
I know you do.
Yeah. So it starts with every critter, flora, and fauna on the planet.
Yes.
What is life driven by? And so that led to the hierarchy of instincts of procreate, then protect, then provide. And that every species risks its life to procreate. Procreate trumps everything else.
Yes.
And then if you just take that whole string and blow it up, you have everything from entrepreneurs who gamble everything, right? To women emasculating men. Women want men to be in a providing, giving, generous mode, but we then unwittingly do something that would never affect a woman the same way, that causes a man to go from this wanting and needing even to provide to retracting to protect. He's got to like protect the castle. And then even worse, he's got to protect himself from her. Right. And so, yes. And then just even the different energies of that, like procreate is so vibrant, but then the instinct is once you create something, you got to protect it. And that's lead. Right. And so even things like parenting and if we can look at being parents from what we wanted as a child, which is really to be adored by our parents, to be seen in the highest love and respect and esteem, and not knowing that from the moment we were conceived, they have been in this lead energy of protect. And they've got to protect us from all the external threats. And then they've got to protect us from our own characteristics that they think are going to ruin our lives. And then right? Like, I got to, I was going to drive the man out of my son. I was going to make him a good person. And that was not a man at the time in 1988. And then by about the time that they're, throwing tantrums, then parents are protecting themselves from their children. Right. And so, I mean, how much that communicates you're wrong.
Right.
You are is wrong. How you are is wrong. What you do is wrong. And that's even one of the releases to do. And there's this funny thing that just popped out of me. We call it noble rightness. And it's just this like salve, or, think of a time when you thought you were much smarter than your parents. You were right. And so like if you take that, you take it like planetary and then come up to human. And what we're compelled to do as humans in this dichotomy of instinct and I just call it human spirit, and then gender's the overlay of that, right? And so I'm most known for gender, like obviously, right? Started studying that in 1991, but I kept running into things that people are like, well, is that because they're male or female? And I'd look at, no, that's human.
Right.
Is that because, I even started thinking of different ways to talk about it. Like, okay, so we have what we do because we're human: procreate, protect, provide, fight, flight, freeze, powerful, powerless, compete, all this stuff that's human. And then there's the expression, if we've got more testosterone or estrogen, and how that configured our brains. And then there's state of mind, right? Are we in a focused, committed state of mind, which men or women can be, and that causes all these things? Or are we in an open, connected state of mind, and that causes all these other ways of being? And then mostly testosterone-based humans, right, will be focused and committed and open when at play, right? When there's no result to produce. That's when men tend to be the most open and connective, and we fall in love with you when you're like that, but we admire you and have chemistry when you're kicking ass and taking names, right? And, right? And then women, estrogen makes us naturally open state of mind to the state of overwhelm, but we can get flipped just by someone giving us a deadline, because that openness has to do with having plenty of time. We got to leave in 10 minutes. And then this gracious, lovely, nurturing human being turns it. Right? So I know, it just all keeps.
Yes. It keeps unraveling.
It definitely keeps unraveling. And then again, it intersects with this illusion of separateness, which from the very beginning, when I figured out the magic words to heal a woman's feelings, discovered that if someone says those magic words, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, everyone who hears them, even if they're said in a movie, will be healed. Right? And I discovered this way long ago. And that's why I started thinking of human beings as aspen groves. Independence is an illusion. We're not just like control, right? Control and independence.
It's an illusion. Yes.
Such illusions. And oh gosh, one of my favoriteest new releases of yours, which of course Lori goes to all your retreats and then she uses them with me.
Right.
Is what's a role? What's a role that Alison played? Yes. And then what are the rules that go with that role? And I mean, the first time she did it, like, a role that Alison played is, I'm the one who knows.
Right. And you get paid well for that role.
And I get paid well for it. But in like my work with human beings, I can so easily say, I don't know.
Yes.
But in my role as the CEO of PAX Programs Incorporated, I'm the one who's supposed to know. Right. Oh, please, gosh, right? And then I've been working for years to turn over the running of the company to someone well qualified who constantly doubts her own opinions and perceptions because Alison's the one who knows.
That's right.
Oh man, we've been unraveling that.
That's great.
I mean, it doesn't even have to be unraveled once doing one of the releases. It just
It's gone. Right.
it's wonderful. It's
Yeah,
wonderful.
that's great. That's
So
great.
yeah, so I just did the first part of a 3-part series called Finding Humor in Being Human.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
It is fun, but to watch people struggle with like identifying, I call it this, the sequence, like after the perception of a threat or an opportunity, which opportunities immediately become threats because you might blow it.
Right. What if you don't take the opportunity or don't use it correctly? Right.
Yes. Or what if I'm being conned and it's not really an opportunity, right? So opportunity sounds so wonderful. No, it's terrible. And so after the perception of a threat or opportunity, then what? And like, what is that? What do I do? Well, my go-to is fight. I am a fighter, right? Right. And then if the fighting's not working, then I freeze. Mm-hmm. And I put on a little mask, like everything's just fine. But behind I'm trying to desperately figure out how else could I fight, right? If I can't come up with any other way to fight, then I'm like, how do I escape? Right. So I normally do fight, freeze, flight. Well, Greg did freeze, flight, fight. But we didn't know this till the last year we were married, right before he died. And so I'm ready to fight, and he's frozen. He won't fight. And then when he comes back to fight, boy, when we finally identified this, I realized he's at the end of his rope. Fight is the last thing for him, and his shoulders are bunched up around his ears. Right. And so just like, but if we can see it and then memorize the feeling of it, like that the engines, I memorize my engine revving, right? Yes. Right. Okay, awesome. Stand down. What if it's not a threat? What if it's nothing? What if you're hallucinating? What if you're collapsing your space? Which is the next intersection I want to tell you about. But I wonder if you want to say anything, and I'll take a sip of tea.
Well, but the only thing I would respond to it with that is, have you noticed that, was that a pattern for Greg, or was it a pattern for men in general? I wonder if men often stop first because they know if they start fighting first, it's going to get out of hand. Have you noticed that or no?
Well, yes. And it's one of the things that very few women know about men, that the instinct, and this is one of the things that's just so confounding to women. We hardly ever try to force anything because we're just not strong enough.
Right.
Where you guys break things.
Right. All the time.
All the time. But there's this paradox, and I've seen men as this just walking resolution of paradoxes. Like a woman can have an instinctual reaction to another woman. Can I out-attract her?
Right.
Because the instinct is whoever is the most attractive is going to get protected and provided for.
Right.
And so we'll have this assessment. Can I out-attract her, or will she out-attract me? And most of our closest friendships are with women that the answer is 50-50.
Right.
Half the time I'll die, half the time she'll die. Because we don't know, a man will protect everybody he can, right?
Right.
And so when I first discovered this ages ago, I asked men, like, so a woman is having that assessment. What is a man assessing? And and they said, and I found out there's two versions. The first assessment they make of another man is, can I kill him? Or there's another version who their assessment is, how can I kill him? But the paradox paradox of men is every man you meet, you might have to kill him, or you might willingly die for him. It could go either way. And how much men are looking for the men worth dying for. I'd die for him, right? And friends are the ones that the loyalty is you'd give your life over together. You both would. I have your back. He has my back.
Right.
And so one of the things that leading to your question is men are much more likely to avoid conflict because the consequence that they're aware of is escalation. Escalation to killing. They have an innate awareness of it, whereas women, I mean, I think we can be as cruel, brutal, ruthless, evil, terrible, equally as men, but because we can barely escape the awareness of how really weak we are. In our Understanding Women course, I challenge men to squeeze their own hand until it hurts, but don't break your own hand, and then give their hand to a woman near them and have her squeeze as hard as she can. And they end up like wondering, when is she going to start? Right. And then when they realize that's all she's got, and no wonder this huge difference between men and women is our constant monitoring of if we're safe, where men generally live that they are safe, right? They won't feel secure if they're not productive or respected and trusted so that they can be more productive, right? But men almost never use the word safe. They'll use the word secure. They'll use safe when it comes to revealing themselves.
Right.
It's not safe to be honest, which one of the things that happened, Hale, I got freed up, right? I was so careful for so long. And then I got freed up in learning I could interact with whatever women used as their excuse for disempowering men. And so I started to be inflammatory. And like I did a webinar called Why You Can't Trust Men to Tell the Truth. And I mean, my graduates were incensed. Alison Armstrong saying you can't trust men to tell the truth. But I wanted to draw out all the women who think men are these horrible liars. Well, I'm sorry, but human beings are born liars. It's go to fight, flight, and freeze is to lie. But the bottom line of why you can't trust men to tell the truth is because we teach men that it's not worth it. and I did another one called Using Anger to Get What You Need. And because I wanted to call out the women who use anger to get what they need, and women who want to use anger to get what they need, to have them find out that it never works.
Right.
A man would consider it dishonorable to do something in order to avoid making someone angry. That's disgusting to do that, to betray himself for that, right? So, oh gosh, it's just so funny. So I think men, although, and this is also an intersection.
Yes.
Resistance is a form of fighting.
Yes, totally. That one, that's actually a safe one for everybody. They think, except it's, yes. And so when I discovered that, and this was just a few months ago, it just popped out of my mouth. And I realized that my soon to be president of my company, how she fought back was through resistance, but I didn't recognize the energy of resistance. And then, oh my gosh, it's so much energy to resist, as you know, the opposite. Yes. It's exhausting.
You can expire resisting. And so yes, resistance would be the most common form for men to fight. And
Yes.
it can be quiet, and it can be one of the things that men taught me was you vote with your feet.
Uh-huh.
I try to teach women to do that. Vote with your feet, like men do. He's yelling. Your nervous system is collapsing because of what yelling means to you, which it doesn't mean to him. So vote with your feet. Leave the room. Let him yell at his computer. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I do have one other question about that, because as I've worked with people over the decades, the other thing I notice is that all the things you're saying are true as a general rule, but I've seen so many people who are flipped. They'll respond. There are women who respond like men and men who respond like women. That's their pattern. What do you say about that?
Well, I would have two responses to that. One is that one of the miracles of the human body is the way that hormones, like gender hormones, right, like testosterone and estrogen and progesterone, hormones affect thoughts, and thoughts affect hormones. And so we can change our own biology by our state of mind. So that focused, committed, get her done, take names, kick ass, conquer no matter what state of mind can cause a woman biologically to be expending enormous amounts of testosterone that we don't naturally have. Actually, you guys have like 15 to 30 times what we have. And the consequences are horrific, from adrenal burnout to miscarriage.
Yes.
It's to the body, to a woman's body, it's an indication of being in a state of fear,
right,
and running for your life.
Yes.
On the other hand, there's a hormone called aromatase. I think it's actually technically an enzyme, where if as a woman, for example, and it has the same effect on men, but it's not a good thing. If I find myself like, I've been like getting her done, meeting a deadline. And then I'm like, okay, I want to be a girl again. Right. I want to be open and connective and soft and receptive and affectionate. Just that thought, which might be augmented by my peaceful playlist. Right. Aromatase is triggered in the body, and it converts testosterone to estrogen, which also happens to men. Men like building testosterone through resting, through not producing results, through doing nothing. Right? That's through sleeping. That's how you build testosterone. Well, I think women can smell testosterone, and we kind of like men to be strong enough to be handy, but not scary. Right. And when you've rested enough, we'll come to you and then we'll talk to you. Now you're useful, but we'll tell you to just listen. Not knowing that when you've rested enough, you now have ambition. Now you have get or doneness, and you just have been told to do nothing. And that when you guys even have an expression called killing time, because time is the enemy. You're the racehorse stuck in the gate. Right. And
my brother calls it burning daylight.
Burning daylight, yes. So when you have the testosterone, but you're not set up to produce a result, which a woman can do just by asking you to listen in a way that you're saving her. So now you get to be a hero, and you're spending testosterone, where if you're supposed to just listen, now aromatase kicks in, and you can watch men fidget. Also, when you're not getting to the point, because biologically you're being weakened. The aromatase is turning testosterone into estrogen in a man's body. So it can happen that way. And then as you're talking about a pattern of, I would say, we're compelled to keep doing whatever has us be safe.
Right.
And so if producing results has us feel safe, male or female, we're going to do it. If connection has us perceive that we're safe, we're going to be compelled to do it. And it's one of those things that will override male and female. And it's a sad thing. And I've been working with Will Spencer in the men's movement because men have become self-emasculating in order to get the reaction they need to get what they need from women.
Yeah. Well, but also
spiral into
yes, but most of it doesn't know. A lot of it has to do with the fact that instead of just being, we're thinking there's a way we're supposed to be, or should be, or have to be, or must be. Whereas life is already living through both men and women naturally and spontaneously, and then the mind gets in and thinks there's something wrong with the way life is just simply living through the female or the male body. Would you agree with that?
Oh gosh. Can I tell you a little story?
Sure.
So when I saw you 3 years ago, I told you about having been to a place on Kauai.
Yes.
That changed me.
Yes.
And I was there in March. I've been many times. I think I just went my 7th time, but in March, my 6th time, what I wanted out of being there was being. I wanted more being. And I thought it would show up like at the end of 5 days. And it showed up the first day. And as I noticed, I was just being. I could perceive the absence of thinking.
Yes.
In all that quietness, which brought back this flood of this memory of being, I think I was 6 years old when I decided, like, I'm saving a lot of details, I decided that that's what happens when you die.
Oh,
you don't think anymore. And
so you got to quick, keep thinking.
Yeah. So for me, thinking was, I think, therefore I am.
Yes,
right?
yes.
If I'm not thinking, therefore I'm not. I'm gone. I'm dead. I don't exist. And to find myself just being, that was the first thing that arose. Wait a second, I'm supposed to be dead. Really not dead. And I really like this beingness. And when I'd start thinking again, I'd be like, oh, it's so noisy. And right. And kept can I segue into a kind of thinking people think they're doing, but they're not?
Yeah.
So when I started working on partnership, right, which is completely, I assert, an expression of human spirit.
Yes.
I haven't found a single human instinct that pulls for partnership. And that I was learning it through horsemanship.
Yes.
And my teacher called me the woman with no space. And the first lessons I was learning was how to hold space, how to hold physical and mental and emotional and even etherical and spiritual space. And we came to express it as space equals self. And when we collapse our space, we collapse the room to be ourselves. And you could say just to be. And so as I was reverse engineering, how does it happen? Because I told Greg, please stop collapsing your space. And he'd go, well, how do I collapse it in the first place? And I started looking, and I realized it was through hallucinating. And then we started contrasting hallucinating and imagining, right? So both are dealing with something that isn't real. But when we hallucinate, we think it's real. When we're imagining, we know it isn't real. Right? So we're creating, right? We are reacting or we're creating.
Yes.
And that how we collapse our space is when we hallucinate literally the thought or even a picture, which you taught me. We can imagine in pictures and feelings too.
Yes.
When we picture any version of, I can't handle this. I can't handle this. I can't do this. I can't deal with this. I can't be with this. That the moment we think it, it becomes true because we collapse who we are. And this is a thing that happened a few weeks ago that I was like, oh, duh. Because I was talking, someone wanted to know, how do we collapse our space and how do we reclaim our space? And I was talking about imagining, just imagine you can handle it. Picture you are big enough. And then right in that moment, I went, that's what we do when we welcome.
Yes.
How can you welcome something you're not bigger than? You can't. So, and I was giving an example of sadness because that's the thing I've most collapsed my space to since Greg died, and probably before. And that when I do everything to try to escape it. I resist it, and then I try to escape it, and I try to distract myself. And then finally I realized, oh, I could welcome this. And then I welcome the sadness. And the next thing I know, I'm me again, and I'm just going about doing me. And I was like, oh my gosh, we could take all this effort to imagine we're bigger than this, or we could just welcome it.
Right, just allow it is to be as it is. Yes.
That is the act of being bigger. That is,
yes.
That is the will of someone who is being bigger, not picturing they're bigger. They is being bigger.
Right.
It's like, oh my gosh. So yeah, welcoming everything. I like, and I love how you saw how the mind can resist the idea of letting go.
Yes.
But it seems incapable of resisting welcoming. It's just too, I don't know. It's too whatever. It's bigger than the mind.
Well, yeah, it doesn't require effort. Believe it or not, there's even an effort in just dropping something because you have to do something.
Yes.
Yeah. Whereas welcoming is just it's what's natural.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I've had so much fun just inviting people, and I don't ask them to tell me what it is. You're the only person who's ever told me your image of welcoming.
Yes.
And I tell people my image of welcoming is I'm, scooping it into my lap and, and snuggling it. But I like, whatever your vision of welcoming is, like you're opening the door and saying, come on in, your room's made, or, hey, you want a beer? Or the tea's, the pot's on the stove, you want a cup of tea? But whatever it is, right? And it's so cute how people can come up with stuff. And I don't even know that I picture it anymore. I just welcome.
Yes. Well, the less there's a picture required, it's the picture itself becomes a filter. Then you think you have to open the door where you don't even have to do that much.
Yeah. Good point. Okay. I'm going to check my list. Okay. Good. I got to talk to you about, uncollapsing one space. Just welcome whatever the thing is. My mentor, I was freaking out because of how windy it was. And do we need to go inside? And she's like, I work in this all the time. Like, oh, and now I live in Steamboat Springs now.
Yes.
So, winter, it's really like 8 months of the year here.
Right.
The growing season is 59 days, that there's a 90% chance it won't go below 29. I ran outside to kiss my boyfriend because he was snow blowing the 7 inches of snow we got since we went to sleep. And so, like, I collapsing my space to the weather, right?
Yeah.
Like, I did a whole release. With Lori on welcoming winter.
Right.
It's just, welcome winter.
Right.
Welcome winter. And one of the fun things was, I thought, well, since it is winter here most of the year, I'm going to wear cashmere in my own house. I'm not going to wait to dress up and go out. I'm going to wear it for me.
Oh, that's fun.
It's actually really fun. One of the side benefits of welcoming all these things to just show up is wonderful. So kind of goes around to what we were talking about before we started recording.
Yes.
So my ability to do what I do and to just be me began really when I was 28, and I made what was then called an impossible promise. And I promised that in my lifetime, every human being would be fed, clothed, housed, loved, and respected. And I had all these ideas about how that would work, right?
Yes.
I was the chairperson of a county task force on homelessness, worked full-time on the end of hunger. And when it intersected with my personal finding out how I was bringing out the worst in men, it caused this whole shift to, when we love and respect each other, fed, housed, closed, that's a no-brainer.
Right.
So I stopped.
Totally.
Right. So I started working on the love and respect part, right? Starting with between men and women. But the amazing thing that happened when I promised that, because at that time, half of the world was considered homeless, right?
Yes.
So in my lifetime, if it just went from impossible to possible, that would be scoring huge points.
Yes.
But because I committed to it and I took it very seriously, at 28 years old, I became a failure.
Oh, yes.
And people think that's the real F word, failure, right? But I got to see that live and die in our mind is success and failure.
Yes.
And so when I became a failure, so I wasn't resisting failing, and I also wasn't driven to succeed, which meant I did whatever was in front of me to do, which made me nearly immune to being manipulated. Yes. There's no such thing as an opportunity, right?
Right.
But as this thing of like drilling down into what compels us, the opposite of freedom, which passion you and I share, I could see that so much of what human beings do is from our terror of death, right? And how that just syncs up with our terror of failure. And that the release that you created called the pull of the senses.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Lori and I spent a month 3 times a week doing the pull of the senses. Yeah. And what I saw in the pull of the senses was how much thinking is dependent upon the perception that comes through the senses, and how much we trust our senses, like to see it, to hear it, to feel it, to taste it, to touch it, even if it's the feeling inside our body, right, as an expression of touch, that we believe in all those, and we believe they're telling us the truth. And that had this kind of collision or harmonic convergence with how confusing it was for me, because I don't remember fearing death, right? I gave up death as quickly as I embraced failure. But when Greg died, and he supposedly was gone, right? And you were so kind to talk to me about loss, right? When you just said, I'm sorry for your loss, I was like, what did I actually lose? And realized I lost the illusion of a future. I didn't lose anything that had happened in our love of each other for decades. I just lost this hallucination of a future that was always a hallucination. That's how I started saying, hug him while you can. But I also felt Greg's joy in being free of his body. He hated being stuck in a human body. And he still, by the way, is providing for me like left and right. A couple of weeks ago, I said, how does a dead guy still get a dream car? He was such a car guy. So the pull of the senses and how our minds make sense out of the senses has us miss what can't be perceived by the senses, which are all these dimensions of being that are eternal.
So
it's like worked all the way back to death is completely an illusion. Body death, yes. Body die. Who we are? No. There's no ultimate failure.
No.
Right? Which makes what is there no ultimate failure in? Play. Right? That's the domain where there's no failure. You can't play it. You can't fail at playing. So, then you come back to like you and me and how giggly we are about playing. And so like I had this experience a couple months ago. I took 5 weeks off, and I had this experience of every bit of determination, which is a kind of resistance, a kind of fight, right? A huge attachment and aversion, right? It just drained out of my body.
That's great.
The people around me, thank you too.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
And I went back to visit my house, which I basically abandoned a year ago, in good hands. And I got to see how much energy I was spending on the idea that I'm supposed to regain something from my house. Like I'm supposed to sell it for a price that will regain all the time, energy, planning, money, dreams that I put into it. Like I need to recover it somehow. And that's just my latest inquiry is how much energy do we waste trying to regain something?
A tremendous amount. But that's assuming we ever had it.
Or could regain it.
Or could regain it, exactly.
So that's my recent access to freedom is doing releases, attachments and aversions to holding and keeping and gaining and regaining.
That's great. Terrific. So this has been really a lot of fun. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we bring this to a conclusion?
I love you.
I love you too. I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Alison Armstrong. You can learn more about Alison at AlisonArmstrong.com. That's AlisonArmstrong.com. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe so you have immediate access to future episodes. Please give us a 5-star rating and share it with the people you care about. If you'd like to learn more about my work, my mentor Lester Levinson's work in the Sedona Method, please visit www.sedona.com. As you explore our site, you'll learn the key to lasting happiness, success, peace, and emotional well-being. We have books, courses, events, and plenty of free material to explore. Again, go to sedona.com. That's SEDONA.com. Thank you for being here, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Letting Go and the Greatest Secret.